All right. So back to the slide. So in 2013, we launched the Zigbee wireless embedded fixtures in tandem with Daintree Networks' own Zigbee wireless network system. We had a lot of success, and with that run rate, we developed our in-house app that is to be used to configure the lights without the need for the Daintree system in the event that customers had wanted just our lights and wanted a simple way to configure the light levels. So in 2015, we officially launched the Sensor Connect app, and at that time, we also had a couple of other product lines that came with it. We had troughers and high bays, and in 2016, we expanded that to an improved high bay. We had downlights, tubes, and boards. So essentially, we developed an app that will configure our wireless controls, and we had a product lineup consisting of troughers, high bays, downlights, and other retrofit kits that had the Zigbee wireless embedded, and that's the dongle or the sensor that gets plugged into the driver. And guys, if you don't mind, if you can mute yourself, and if you have a question, just unmute yourself this way, just in case it gets noisy. We don't have too many distractions. Now, the vision of LG, they've got a couple of innovative industries already, and what LG strives to push in is adding value, right? So the LG name itself is a value, and LG is capable of manufacturing fixtures that have a high payback. So we strive in producing the best products for you guys with the highest efficacy, and making sure that all of our products deliver a big punch for its value. And we're also able to implement multiple technologies. So as these products progress, we're also introducing new technologies. Some of you might have seen at LightFair the Safe Blue technology, which is new LEDs that have part of the blue light spectrum filtered out. We use VLC for commissioning methods, and we're constantly looking to innovate and integrate new technologies into our products to make it basically an overall better package. And our quality is one of our top priorities, along with design. What we don't carry in design, we do partner with fixture manufacturers, which we've just started that initiative at the end of last year. And we now have a couple of fixture partners who make very nice fixtures, and they have our internals so that you have the wireless controls. Now, there are 3 key benefits to Sensor Connect. Right, so when you have Sensor Connect, first you have an ease of install. So how do you install Sensor Connect? Well, it's simply just a dongle or a sensor that plugs into the driver. That means that there's no low voltage wiring. You don't have any purple and gray wires to connect. Dongle and sensor just gets plugged in. We have the new retrofit door kit, which can be installed by one installer in under 3 minutes. The switches are battery powered or retrofit AC switches. All of these designs revolve around making it easier for the installer. And one of the pains that the installers have had is tracking those barcodes, which we still recommend doing as a fallback. However, we are introducing VLC, and we'll expand it so that our lights can broadcast their own ID directly downward using the lights, so that there won't be a need for barcodes for commissioning. Next, we have the intuitive operation, and this is designed now more so for the end user. So commissioning the system will be a lot easier. The new app is much more intuitive. But in addition, we have added a section that's designed for building managers so that they don't go in and poke around in the commissioning section and incidentally make changes that could damage their system. So we are trying to keep both users in mind, from a commissioning standpoint and from a maintenance standpoint. And last but not least is the excellent savings. So you get high efficiency from all of our products. And out of the box, if you have controls plugged in, the dongle is set to a trim of 80%, and the sensor is set to a trim of 80% with a 30-minute timeout. So out of the box, without any programming, you have some savings already. And you can take it a step further when you introduce the app. So these are the components in a nutshell that makes up Sensor Connect. So we've got the Android-based app with our Zigbee antenna that plugs directly into the Android device. You have the wireless communication modules that plug into our drivers. So we have a high base sensor, we have a regular sensor, and just a dongle. We have our LED lights and our wireless switches. For those that are familiar with our switches, we are replacing the old battery switch with a new battery switch that has twice the capacity of batteries, and also the look and feel of it is now identical to the AC wire switch. So it's got the clicky buttons with the labels on the buttons, opposed to the old school big buttons that were touch capacitive. So it's much more responsive and much more stable and much more liked by the customers. So what makes up Sensor Connect all starts with the fixtures, and there is a variable which would be the app. So I do want to start by saying that this system is scalable. Sensor Connect would be the app-based system. And what the app-based system can do is set up motion detection, which goes through 3 light levels. Motion will go through a max, middle, and minimum. Whereas when a user enters the room, the lights go to max. When the user leaves the room, the lights will dim down to middle. And then ultimately, if they don't see motion for another period of time, they will turn off to minimum. If you have a sensor in a group, you can enable daylight harvesting. And in daylight harvesting, if you have all sensors in a single location, every sensor will dim individually based on daylight sensing. If you have a combination of sensors and dongles, that's what we call master-slave, in which case all of the lights follow the single master and they all dim together. So you get a bit more granular dimming when you have all sensors. Next, we have centralized scheduling. With the use of our switch, you can schedule the light levels to either be on or off, and you can customize what those on levels are. So an example would be if the offices should be on at 80% at 7 a.m., you can schedule it that at 7 a.m. the lights turn on to 80%. If you wanted to drop them down, you can schedule them in the evening to turn on at half that brightness. And then you can schedule them to turn completely off at the end of the night. In addition, from our switch, we also have 2 group switches that allow you to split a single room up into 2 halves, 2 groups, and that's what we call mode control, where a user can dim down or shut off one group of the lights while leaving the other group of the lights on in the same location, such as a conference room, where they may want to shut the lights off in front of the TV. So we cover 4 major bases here just with the app alone. However, there are some things that we cannot do. The Sensor Connect app cannot do reporting, data analytics, or demand response. These features do require a server and a sort of gateway that collects all this data historically and produces these reports. The Sensor Connect app does not have any external components. It is just a dongle or just a sensor that's plugged into the light that is telling the light what to do. And the app is only used as a remote to upload settings to those devices. But the app is not an ongoing running system. You can walk away with the tablet and never come back with it. And those lights, since it's a set and forget system, will retain their information and continue working indefinitely.
Hey, James.
Yeah.
Hi, this is
Hey,
Ashish.
Ashish.
So
All right.
on the, sorry, I got a little delayed getting off a call, but
No worries.
can you go back to the last slide, please? Sorry about that.
Yeah.
So on the centralized scheduling, one of the questions I got actually yesterday, and I've got this before as well, is how many settings can you set for a day? Like I see there's a during hours and there's a little darker lunchtime.
Yeah.
Is there a limit? Yeah.
There is a limit. So a single switch can only hold up to 10 schedules.
Per day?
Well, no, that depends on how you want to repeat it. A schedule combines, think of a schedule like an alarm on your phone. So if I told you that you can only create 10 alarms on your phone, well, an alarm can repeat on certain days and at a certain time with a certain setting. So one schedule could be weekdays, Monday through Friday, on at 7 a.m. That's one schedule. Weekdays, Monday through Friday, dim in the evening. That's the second schedule. Weekdays, Monday through Friday, off at night. That's three schedules that you can have repeating every Monday through Friday at 7 a.m., 7 p.m., and midnight. So that's only three schedules. If you wanted to make three different schedules for the weekend, then you're now up to 6. But you max out at 10.
Got it. Okay.
If you have additional switches in the room, then you are multiplying that number of schedules. So if you have 2 switches, you can fit 20 schedules.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, that's helpful to know.
All right. Yeah,
Thanks.
and thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah.
Hey, James, this is Scott. To clarify, so if I've got a 2-group sensor, that means I have 20 settings?
No. The 2-group switch still only has one piece of memory in it.
Okay.
So
Thank you for the
each switch has memory inside. Yep, you got it.
Yep.
So speaking about scalability, I talked about what Sensor Connect cannot do. So here's a quick breakdown. Out of the box, we call it individual control. Out of the box, you have the dongles that are set to 80%, the sensors that are set to 80% with a 30-minute timeout, and daylight harvesting enabled. So by default, if you install our lights and don't do any programming, the sensor lights will turn off and on their own individually. They have little buttons on the sensor that you can configure the light level and the time delay, but that's it. When you introduce Sensor Connect, you get the 4 categories that I mentioned before, which is done by grouping the lights together and adding a switch. If the end user is looking for further features such as reporting, positioning, monitoring, or metering, then you look into upgrading to a network lighting system. So we partner with Daintree and Atani. That's when those systems would jump in, and they have a bare bones lighting solution that is designed just for this category, but their software can be upgraded to integrate with the total building management system. And just to clarify, when you go from Sensor Connect to a network lighting system, you don't have to change anything to the lights. You simply just add that network lighting system's components, and they will automatically speak to our lights. They speak Zigbee, so you don't need to add anything or rewire the lights. You simply install their component, and their component will then commission our lights onto their software. So here's a quick breakdown and comparison of how we measure up to some of the competition. And we picked 3 of the bigger game players here. We've got Philips EasySense, Acuity's Nline Air, and Cree SmartCast. One thing I do want to clarify is at the very bottom where we have group composition, all of these systems require that every light have a sensor in order for the system to work. That's not the case with Sensor Connect, where you can have up to 50 devices in a single location. And of those 50 devices, you get to choose how many of those are sensors, how many of those are dongles. So there's no magic number. You can use as many sensors or as many dongles as you want in a single location. A couple of the ways that these systems differ, starting with Philips, is that Philips uses a phone to commission, a phone or a remote, and this makes it very convenient for commissioning agents because you don't need to use some external panel to commission the lights. You use a phone directly to communicate with the modules that go into the lights. We really like this idea. However, Philips has a limitation where they actually use the infrared blaster or the NFC chip on the phone to program these devices. The problem with that is not a lot of phones come with one or the other. It's actually quite hard to find the device with an IR blaster nowadays. So what we did is we took this idea, we ran with it. However, we instead externalized the technology used to communicate with the lights. So instead of using a built-in feature of the device, which might be hard to source, we instead created an external USB Zigbee connector that plugs into the device. This allows us to work with over 90% of Android devices, whereas Philips, if you're looking for devices with IR and NFC, the last device that had both of those built in was the Samsung S5, which was launched in 2014. So it's quickly becoming an obsolete combination and very difficult to come by. However, we did like the idea, and their app is also very intuitive and simple to commission with. And they also have some features that we don't, such as scene selectors and energy metering. LG is planning to launch scene selector in 2019, along with energy metering, where we are looking into how to accomplish an energy metering capability with our app. Next, we have Acuity Nlight. They use Bluetooth Low Energy. So Bluetooth is great. It's another good platform that is a sustainable system. And it works with Android and iOS because just about 99% of devices have Bluetooth. So this does give people the option to use iOS devices. However, it means more work for the installers. You have an external component called a gateway or a lighting panel that your Android or iOS device connects to, and that works as a bridge. So your phone has to be connected to this gateway in order for you to talk to the lights, because the gateway then converts your communication over to Zigbee or whatever components they're using, could be something else. But your phone is never actually directly connected with the lights. So what that means is if that gateway or lighting panel shuts down, you have no communication with the lights. Whereas with Sensor Connect and Philips EasySense, you still do because the communication was direct. So we took that into account, and is the reason why we chose to use the external USB Zigbee connector. We compromised supporting iOS at this time in order to give commissioning agents and end users a more stable method of staying connected with the lights. One of the features that Nlight Air does support is called upgrading or integrating upwards to their network lighting system. If you have their app-based system installed, they can quickly turn it over and scale it up to their network lighting system. Since we partner with Daintree and Atani, we are working on a way to quickly convert a Sensor Connect building over to Atani or Daintree. So that is something that we are working on because we like that idea, and we figure that some customers may not make the full investment upfront and may later come back to add a network system at a later point. Very similarly with Cree SmartCast, Cree uses a clicker as a commissioning tool, and once again we use the Android app with the Zigbee stick. But Cree does have a very fancy commissioning method called one-button commissioning. The catch is that every light must be installed first. Everything must be installed and running before the one-button commissioning can be pressed. However, once everything is set up, commissioning agent just presses a button and the whole system gets commissioned. So that's it's very It's very fancy, intuitive, and convenient. So we also ran with that idea. We like that idea. And we've included an ability in the new app to commission an entire floor where the app will automatically cycle through every room, look for those lights, and move on when it finds them. So that the commissioning agent just has to sit there, place the tablet central on the floor, and let the app do its scan automatically. So some of the new technologies that we use for commissioning, one of them is VLC. I think some of you guys have already used it. VLC stands for Visible Light Communication. And what this does is it is not using a wireless protocol. So this is not a wireless feature. This is a physical attribute by the light, where the light is flashing at a very fast rate, 35,000 hertz, that's 35,000 times in a second, to broadcast its name. And it's sending its name downward. And we use our VLC connector, which has a photocell on it, to capture that name. When the name is captured by the app, it gets placed into the room that you're in. So this is essentially us getting the barcode ID from the light without requiring barcode stickers. Previously, having barcode stickers properly mapped out was a difficulty. There is user error by the installers. There's also user error by the commissioning agent when entering those IDs into the app and making typos. So now there's no barcode stickers in the wrong spot, and there's no more typos because you got the light that you're standing right underneath. So the three things that VLC solves is it minimizes errors, it reduces the time it takes to commission because it increases accuracy, and it's a convenience for the commissioners so that they don't have to enter hundreds and hundreds of barcode IDs into the app manually. And next, we have a commissioning station, which essentially provides you with 21 fixtures on your desk. It's about the size of an E-size paper, and it's got 21 ports. And as you can see here on the photo on the screen, we've got some dongles plugged into it. You can plug in a dongle or a sensor, which will power that dongle and sensor, and the little LEDs on the board will light up. And you can actually dim those LEDs. You can actually see the LEDs changing when you're making changes. This is giving you the ability to program these dongles and sensors before they get installed into the lights. It's also a great training tool. You can carry this around with you in a laptop bag, and you essentially have 21 fixtures in your bag. And it's simply powered by a USB cable. So very simple, lightweight, convenient, and gives you the ability to either troubleshoot problematic devices or program something before it gets installed. It's also a good way to reduce the number of times you got to go up on a lift when you're doing a high bay application. If you can program those sensors before the installer goes up, then you've only had to use the lift once. If you plan to come back at a separate time to commission it in the field, then you might have to rent a lift twice. So here's a breakdown of the commissioning process. As you can see, a bulk of it is done in what we call offline mode. Offline mode doesn't require the antenna plugged in. Offline mode essentially allows you to plan everything before commissioning so that when the commissioning time comes, the app already has all this information and it's just waiting to upload it into the lights. That's it. So when you go on site, you go online, and all of your programming will get uploaded to the lights based on their IDs. And I'll go through this process here in a minute when we do the live demo. We do support floor plan images. They are just images, so JPEG, bitmap, PNG. If you don't have an image of the floor plan or you never got one, you can use the camera of the tablet to take a picture of something. If you don't have anything to take a picture of, the app does have a black grid that you can use, so that even without a backdrop, you can still draw your floor by using the grids and coloring it in that way. All right, I'm going to skip this slide. It's talking about our Tiny partnership, but we're just going to focus on Sensor Connect today. So I'm going to now switch over to my tablet and do a live app. And while I get that set up, do you guys have any questions so far? All right, no questions unless somebody spoke while on mute.